In this video, I will be discussing the pros and cons of living rural. I've been living in this cottage for 13 years now. I grew up in the same town, but then I moved into the city for college. I spent my 20s and my early 30s living in different cities, traveling abroad. But then I started yearning for something more simple, something more sustainable. And I moved into this house for a slower, more intentional life. Hi, my name is Jana. Welcome back to my channel, where I discuss slow living, life in the Finnish countryside, making things with your hands, and living more intentionally. The other day we made a fire in our yard just to sit by the fire, enjoy the evening and roast marshmallows. And sitting there listening to the crackling of the fire and the birds singing nearby, it dawned on me what a luxury that was. The silence. There was no traffic noise. There was no other sound to be heard besides the fire and the birds nearby. Silence is definitely one of the best things about living in the country. When I lived in Helsinki, I once lived in an apartment that was right next to a train track, so I could hear all the trains going past my apartment. Another time I lived next to a hospital and I could hear the ambulances going past and their sirens. Of course, I got used to it over time. But right now, living here in my silent environment, I wonder how did I get used to it? And I think that silence is one of the most important things to soothe your nervous system. And the opposite, having city noise as your background noise all the time can be really disturbing. Space. Having enough space to make a fire in your own yard is definitely also a luxury. Our plot is pretty big, 1 hectare, and that means that we have space to fulfill our ideas, our projects. If we wanted to build another sauna in the yard, that would be possible. We also have several outbuildings where we can store our tools, where we can work on our projects. Like I did in the previous video where I built a bookshelf and renovated a chair. I remember when I lived in the city in a small apartment, it just didn't feel possible to start working on projects like that because I just didn't have the space. Nature. Living here means that if I want to go for a walk in the forest, it's only a few seconds from my front door. I often see wild animals such as foxes, deer, even elks in the nearby fields, and sometimes even in my garden. I talked about my relationship to nature in this video. Make sure to watch that too. No light pollution. In winter, if it's a clear night, I sometimes just go outside to watch the stars. Because there are no street lights, I can see them clearly. And in those moments, I feel completely connected to the universe, just me and the stars. Besides, darkness is relative. Soon your eye adapts so that you can see well enough even without artificial light, especially if it's a clear night. Low cost of living. Living in the country can be a lot cheaper than buying a house in the city. And lower living costs mean freedom. Freedom for you to do what you want in your life. I talked about this in one of my previous videos, so check it out if that's something that interests you. No neighbors. We have no neighbors close by. It means that we don't have to discuss the color or location of a garden fence without anybody. We don't have to listen to leaf blowers or barking dogs. We simply don't have neighbors so close that they would bother us. Of course, it's disputable if having no neighbors is a pro or a con. Our kids definitely would love to have their friends closer. Now we have to drive them by car to visit their friends. Long distances. The long distances are definitely the biggest con living in the countryside. You need to have a car for everything. It's just not very convenient to walk or cycle, especially in the winter when there's a lot of snow everywhere. So I need to drive into town every time I need to go grocery shopping, or if I want to maintain hobbies, I have to drive. And for us, it's not even enough to have one car, because when my husband drives to work every day, otherwise with just one car, I would be completely stuck here. So we need to have two cars. No bars, no restaurants, no culture. There are actually a few restaurants in the town nearby. There is maybe even a surprisingly vivid culture scene for a town this size. But it's of course completely different from bigger cities. But of course I can always visit. Helsinki is only 2.5 hours away. Isolation. I work from home. I spend most of my days home alone. So my life is pretty isolated. I could be more active with friends, but I guess I'm just a bit of a loner. I like to spend time alone. And I don't know, maybe here living in the country, it's a bit more pronounced than it would be in the city. Not having those daily interactions with other people that you probably would in the city makes life sometimes a bit lonely. But I think that could be solved by just taking initiative, being more active, going to places, trying to meet more people. Maybe you have to make more effort to socialize in the country. But after all, there's nothing wrong with spending time alone if that's something that you like. So this was my list of pros and cons of living in the country. In my opinion, the pros definitely outweigh the cons. What do you think? Do you have similar experiences? Do you live in the country, or are you dreaming of it? And if you haven't made the decision to move yet, why not? Thank you for watching. Remember to take care of yourself. See you in the next video. Bye bye!